Could you just give us a sense of what President Obama is expected to lay out next week when he tells America what his budget plan is?
Sure. Usually there's a lot of mystery around the budget. What's the president going to propose? But this year we actually have a really good idea what it is because he basically put his budget proposal out in September. He's going to propose $3 trillion in deficit reduction over 10 years, and about half of that is going to come from tax increases, mostly on the wealthy, some on corporations. But it's all the sort of things that we've heard before. Closing loopholes that benefit oil and gas companies, for instance, the carried interest provision that's become so controversial on the campaign trail, those sorts of things. So we really do have a good sense of what he's going to say.
Laura, is there any sense now, having been through the months on the campaign trail, hearing from the Republican candidates, that the appetite Americans may have is, more open to what President Obama is talking about, this $3 trillion in cuts, half of which financed by tax hikes and the various moves that you mentioned? Is there more appetite, you think, for this time around?
Well, it's interesting because polls show that there is support for taxing wealthy Americans, that actually polls very well. People like that. And that's what the Obama campaign is counting on. Now, this is a budget that's not going to become law anytime soon, but it does serve as a political document, and it sets up the debate for this coming year. And that is about what we're going to do about tax policies. Are we going to let the Bush tax cuts for the upper-income Americans expire or not? And those are the kind of issues that you see foreshadowed in this budget.
And Laura, talking about that debate that's going to ensue, the intractability of the two, the very polarized nature of Washington that we evidenced last year during the whole budgeting process. It seems as though President Obama is not backing down from basically throwing a document in the Republicans' face and saying, effectively, eat this.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's exactly right. He's saying, I'm not changing my positions on this, and he knows that they're not changing theirs anytime soon. So he's putting out his plan and saying, this is where I stand. Now, we should also, though, keep in mind that there's not likely to be a lot of real contention over the budget this year because the party's already agreed to caps on discretionary spending. So some spending just goes on every year, whether you do anything about it or not, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. But for other programs, sort of the everyday programs, including military spending, those levels have been set through the budget deal last summer. So those are reflected in President Obama's budget, and that's what Congress is likely to adopt this year as well. So
Laura,
there probably won't be a lot of drama there.
If Congress doesn't adopt President Obama's budget, which it's unlikely they would do, then what do they have to do to keep the government running? I mean, is it, again, more of a series of stopgap measures that they agreed to at the last minute, all of these temporary moves? Is that basically the new way that Washington runs, or is this how it's always happened?
Well, never bet against stopgap measures in Washington. But in fact, the way that we're likely to see things happen is that, as I said, the actual numbers for discretionary spending have already been set. So because of that, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of drama this year about what the actual next year's budget should look like. But what we won't be seeing is any sort of long-term planning for reducing the deficit over time or getting control of entitlements. Those are the kinds of things that the parties can't agree on right now.
And Laura, it does seem as though, politicians are optimists by nature, but by going ahead with the plan they outlined back in September, President Obama seems to be saying, I'm going to be reelected in November of 2012.
Well, what he's basically saying is, this is what I would do if I were reelected. This is where I stand. The program, the plan he put forward in September, and what he'll put forward again on Monday is basically saying, hey, here's my ideas. These are my values. This is what I'm for, and challenging the other side to be against it.